Hey guys, it's Alpha, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to handle player spawning and saving the player's last location to your database within your framework. If you haven't watched the previous tutorial, FiveM scripting tutorial number 9, that first covered how to first set up your database, not database, framework. And this tutorial is also going to be adding on to the framework that we started in the previous episode. So if you haven't watched that, please watch that one and follow that tutorial before you start this one. Anyway, what we're going to be doing is going into our framework file. We're going to be editing the same resource that we were using in the previous tutorial. And in today's episode, we're actually going to be adding a client.lua. So we're going to go into the FX manifest and actually add client script. And then this one's called client.lua. You can save that. And then we're actually going to make a client.lua in the directory. Oh, that's the wrong one. New text document and then call it client.lua. Change the file name. Boom. And we're going to open this up. And in here, we're going to be handling when the player spawns. So we're just going to add a comment. So when spawn, say when spawn player ped. Oh, hold on. When spawn player head. So, and then we're going to do add event handler, and then player spawned. So basically, with one of the default resources for a FiveM server, which is spawn manager, there's an event called player spawned, and we're just going to add an event handler, which means that this will happen when that event triggers, which is when a player spawns. So inside of this event handler, we're going to trigger server event, and then this is one that we're about to make. This server event doesn't actually exist yet, but we're going to call it framework : spawn player. So, and then on the next line, we're going to just add a quick debugging print statement. This isn't required. It's just so we know when all of the events are being triggered. Like so. And then that event handler is complete. We're going to go down, and then we're going to set up the player position. So we're going to register a net event. It's capital. Register net event. And this one we're going to call framework on last position. Capital. Actually, no. Actually, yeah, we'll do capital last position. And then on the next line, we're going to do add event handler. Obviously, as you saw, I was changing the capital there. Just make sure wherever else you type this, you just make sure it's the same syntax. And then we're going to do event handler for framework position. And as you may be able to tell by now, we're using framework at the start. This isn't required. It's just all of the events that are within the framework, we want to know that it's from the framework. Obviously, with a framework, you might have a lot of resources, so you would just want to know that they're all working from the same framework. So that's why I'm doing that. It's just good practice to get into if you're going to be working with frameworks a lot. And then, so this one will be getting the position with 3 parameters: position X, position Y, and position Z. And then we'll drag down this final bracket and put an end. So, and then within here, we're going to do citizen.wait 1. And then we're going to do local default model equal get hash e. So what this is doing is going to be loading the default model. If you've played roleplay servers before, you'll know there's the multiplayer, the free mode default player model, which is the bold guy. Most people refer to him as default Danny. And that's basically what this is doing, because obviously in a default FiveM server, it's just like you get a random skater ped or something like that. This will just be changing us to the free mode ped. And then we're going to request model default. Cool. So then while not as model loaded, this is basically making sure that the model is loaded before we set the player to that model. As model loaded default model do. Oh, yeah, and we're just going to end off. So, and then in here we're going to do citizen dot wait. Oh, not 10. Perfect. And then here we're going to set player model player ID brackets, and then colon, or not colon, comma, default model, like that. And then we're going to do set head default component variation, and we're going to do player head D in brackets, like so. And then on the next line we're going to do set model as no longer needed, and default model. So once we've done everything we need to do with it, we can just set it as no needed so it doesn't put a strain on the server. And then we're going to do set entity coords, and this is getting our player ped. So this is us getting player ped -1, and then setting them to position X, position Y, and position so. And then also we're going to need to do 1, 0, 0, 1. These are just some other parameters that need to be passed when you set an entity's coordinates. Just do 1, 0, 0, 1. And then we'll do a print statement just after that as well, just to say entity coordinates set. And then once we've done that, we can go outside of the net event that we've just registered, and then we're going to update player position, and then this one's going to be a thread, which basically means it will just run endlessly on the client. Yeah, on the client basically, and then it's basically however often we want. So we're not going to do it too often because we don't want to put a lot of strain. Like, we don't want it to be too intense of a script, so we're going to do it like every 5 seconds. So while true do, and then we're going to do citizen dot wait, and then we'll do 5,000. So this is in milliseconds, so 5,000 milliseconds is 5 seconds. So you know, every 5 seconds it will save the player's position. Let me just add an end, and then we're going to do last X, last Y, last Z equals table dot unpack get entity coords get player ped -1. Outside of the first close bracket we're going to do comma true, and on the next line we're going to do trigger server event, and then we'll do we'll call this one framework colon save player position, like so. And then we're going to need 3 parameters, so we're going to do last X, last Y, last Z, like so. And on the next line we're just going to do another print just to make sure it's working. We're going to put player position saved, so, and then we can save that, and then we're actually done with the client.lua. And now we're going to go and open our server.lua, and we need to add a little bit to this. So we're going to have to update a bit inside of our player connecting like script area. So as you can see, if you've got it like laid out the same way as me, it should be line 41. It might be on a different line for you, but basically where there's the MySQL async execute, just below here, just before the print. If you've got the print, you don't have to, but if you do, just before that, we're going to add another execution here. So we're going to type mysql.async.execute once again, just like on the line above. And then in this one, we're going to do insert into user information. So this won't be user identifiers. We're going to make a new table in a moment. So this one's going to be called user information. And then we're going to do in brackets Steam name, Steam ID. I'm going to do values at Steam name at Steam D, and we're going to close that one. And then just after the speech mark, but before the close bracket, we're going to do a comma. And then on the next line, we're going to do an open curly bracket and an open square bracket. And then we're going to do at Steam name. And outside of the square bracket, we're going to do equals get player name source. Then we're going to do a comma Steam D equals like so. And that's all we need to add just there. Oh, that needs to be indented a bit more, just like that. There we go. That's all you need to add in this area. But then once we've actually done that, I'm going to go down a couple lines, and we're actually going to add a new section. So this one's going to be handling the the player spawning, which is obviously what we're doing in today's video. So we're going to be adding two. So obviously we've got section 1 up top, section 1 player connecting, section 2. This one's going to be player spawning. And then we're going to do a server event. So register server event. And then we're going to call this one framework spawn player, like so. And then add event handler framework spawn player. We're gonna do function brackets and an end at the end, just like so. And then inside of here, so the first section within here, we're going to do variable creation. Not indented. So variable creation, we're going to do local source equals source. And we're going to do local identifiers. Oh. Identifiers equals get player identifiers source. So, and then we're going to do for k v in I pairs identifiers. Do, and in here we're going to do if string dot match v speech mark Steam, then, and then that will do Steam ID equals v. Oh, equals v. So, and on the next line we're going to break, so that will break the loop, because obviously we've found the Steam ID and that's all we need to do. This may look very similar to what you've done up here, and that's because it is actually the same of what we've done up here. We just need to grab the Steam ID again in the inside of this event. And once we've grabbed that, we can actually go outside of this just here. And then the next section is going to be getting the user's position from the database. So get the user's position from the database. So then we're going to do a fetch command from MySQL. So mysql.async dot, I believe it's fetch all with a capital A, and then it will be select asterisk from user underscore information where Steam ID is equal to @Steam ID, and then we're going to do a comma and then an open curly bracket here, and we're going to take this down, and then inside of here we're going to do a square bracket and then @Steam ID. @Steam ID is equal to Steam ID, and then just here where we've got the close curly bracket on the next line, we're going to do a comma and function result, like so. And then this final close bracket just here, we're actually going to do an end over here, just like so, a couple of lines down. And then on this line just here, below the function result, we're going to do local spawn pos for spawn position, and then we'll do json.decode. It'll be result 1 dot position, like so. And then we're going to do a couple lines down, trigger client event with this one, framework colon last position, like so. And then it will be source spawn pos, and then we'll do 1 comma spawn pos 2 and comma spawn pos 3, like so. And then on the next line, we're just going to do another print for debugging. Triggered. Oh, I need to do it in speech marks. Triggered client event last position, like so. And then outside of this server event, we're going to do another server event to save the player position. And then we're going to do register server event, and this one, I think we already rinsed this one. Yeah, save player position. So we're going to do framework save player position, so. And then we're going to add an event handler. So, and then it'll be work save player position. Position. And we're going to need to do function. And inside of here, we're going to need the parameters pos x, pos y, pos z, like so. And we're going to take that down and do an end as usual. Then we're going to do local source equals source. And then here again, we're going to need to do the same thing as up here. So we're just going to grab this and copy it again. So obviously we've got the local source equals source and then local identifiers. And we'll just grab that. And then it's obviously got this loop just here where it's grabbing the Steam ID. So just below that one, we're going to do mysql.async.execute. And we're going to do update user information set position equals at position where Steam ID equals at Steam ID, and then we're going to do a comma and an open curly bracket and then open it onto the next line. and then I'm sure you're getting used to this by now. And then we're going to do Steam ID. This one's going to be equals Steam ID. And then we're going to do a comma, because we've got to do a next one. This one's going to be position. And this one is actually going to be, we're going to have to do a speech mark, and then like a curly bracket and space. And then it's going to have to be, I believe it's 2 dots, and then pos X, and then space 2 dot space. And then we're going to have to do a comma, like so, and then with a space, and add pos Y. So basically what these 2 dots mean is it's concatenating, so it's adding this piece of text to this, and this piece of text to this, and they're all adding to make one piece of text. It may seem confusing, but if you know what I'm talking about, it will make perfect sense to you. So then we're going to add another comma with space, dot, and then pos Z, so pos X, Y, Z, and then dot, and then plus, close curly bracket, like so. And then once we've done that, we can actually go to the next line after that. And then we're going to do one final debug of print player position saved, like so. And once we've done that, we've actually finished off in the server.lua. And after that, we're going to go to our framework.sql file and open that with Visual Studio Code, like so. And then, so obviously we've created this in the previous tutorial, but today we're actually going to be creating a new table. So then what we're going to be doing is create table, and we have to use the tilde again, not the quote marks, as you guys will remember from the previous episode. So these are not like speech marks or quote marks or anything like that. So these are speech marks, these are quote marks, all of these. We're not using any of those. We're using tildes, which are the key just below the escape key for most people. If you don't have it, just copy and paste it from the internet or whatever. So it's going to be user information, and then open, and then here we're going to need a lot of these. So I'm just going to grab these and then copy and paste them. So I'm just going to do the first 3 because we only have 3 fields within this table. So we're going to do Steam name and Steam ID. They're exactly the same. But then license, we're actually going to change to position. And then it's also going to be null instead of not null. And it's going to be null default. And then here we're actually going to put the default coordinates. So I'll leave these in the description. So these coordinates are just inside one of the buildings in the center of the city. It's a very commonly known building. So yeah, if you want to use those, you can. Obviously, if you want to change the default, if it's like the first spawn position, you can do. But if you want to use those, go for it. And then on the next line, we're actually going to do primary. Oh, it needs to be capital, not indented. Primary key, and then this is going to be Steam ID. Steam ID, like so. And then comma. On the next line, we're going to do constraint. And then we're going to call this one like FK. FK means foreign key. If you know about databases, you should know what foreign keys are. If not, don't worry about it, just do as I do. So we're going to do FK user information grabs from user identifiers, like so. Oh, I've used the wrong symbol here. I need to use tildes, not quote marks, like so. And then we're going to do foreign key. And this one's going to be Steam ID, like so. So this basically means it's going to grab the Steam ID from user identifiers. So if this one's ever changed up here, then it will also change down here. And then we're going to do references user identifiers. And then the column that it references is Steam ID. And then on update, cascade, and on delete, cascade. I don't know why that one's white, but it should work anyway. So basically what this means is the primary key for this table is Steam ID, but it's also a foreign key, which means it's grabbed from this table, and then on update cascade, on delete cascade. Basically, if you don't know what that means, don't worry, just do it as it is. And then we'll save that. Oh, but just before we finish that, we do need to add a semicolon on the end, because that is the syntax for MySQL. And then what we'll do is we'll minimize that, because we should be all finished with that. And then what we're actually going to do is we're going to open this with HeidiSQL. So obviously what you'll need to do is open up examp and make sure that MySQL is started, like so. And we're also going to need to open up HeidiSQL, which, as you guys should know, is the database management system. And when we open that, what I'm actually going to do, if you've already got the framework, you can just delete it by just right click the database and press drop, and that will totally delete the database. That's perfectly fine because we're about to get it back anyway. And then what we're going to do is file, load SQL file, and we're going to grab it from in here. Okay, so I had a small little error here on line 69 where I didn't actually put capitals for SQL just here. So it needs to be MySQL with capital SQ and L. So I'm just going to save that and then restart the server, and hopefully that should fix the error that I just got. So now, as you guys can see, it says started resource framework -init, and there's no errors, so that's perfect. So if we start up FiveM, it should work. So as we're loading in here, it should be grabbing all of our identifiers and plopping them into the database like it did in the previous episode. But then obviously, because we have two tables now, it should also put our identifiers into the user information table, along with giving us the default position that is stated. So we'll just check here. Yeah, perfect. So it's just placed us into the default position. This is where it is inside of this building here. You may know this building. And also our ped is also set to the free mode default ped, which is what we wanted to do. So that's perfect. And then also, if I press F8 to open the console, as you can see, every 5 seconds it is saving my player position. So I should do it now. Yep, perfect. So basically, if I run out and run over to, say, under this umbrella just here, and wait for it to save my position, like so. And then if I quit the server, we can actually check in here. If I refresh, like so, as you can see, it's grabbed all of my identifiers like we did in the previous episode. But then if we go to the other table, user information, as you can see, it's grabbed my Steam name, Steam ID, and also it's saved my position that was saved of where I was in the server just before I left. But now if I boot up FiveM once again, and then rejoin the server, as you can see, it has spawned me where I was last saved. So that is all working correctly. That is all for today's video in terms of like coding. But what I also can show you is if I quit out of FiveM, as you guys obviously know, we did add a foreign key, which basically means that this is basically the master table just here is user identifiers. So if I edit this row that has this Steam ID, obviously because this table also has the same Steam ID, if I change this to, let's say if I get rid of those, like so, it also edits on this table. If I delete this row, it also deletes off of this table, as you can see. Which is perfect. So basically it just means that if you wanted to get rid of a user in your database, it will get rid of it out of all tables. You don't need to go one by one through every table. It basically makes things a lot easier in the long run. But that is everything for today's tutorial. If you enjoyed, please leave a like. If you need any support, please join my Discord in the description, and please leave a comment of what else you'd like to see me do. And please share it with your friends if they're also interested in FiveM, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Take care.